What question to investigate? So let's talk about a framework with which to write a basic syntactic description of a language that you may know well, right? And how its data is to be analyzed or assessed. If appropriate, you can ask one or more native speaker if you have no direct knowledge of that language. Make sure you give source. It's very important that if you are using some books, if you are using some person, you must attribute to that person, to that source. Acknowledge any help given by the language consultant. So give the name by which the language is known to the native speaker, and obviously plus it's known to the English speaker by its English name. State its language family. Language family, we discuss about language families in Introduction to Linguistics. And obviously when you know which language it belongs to, you know which area it belongs to, in which area it is used, population, the number of people. They are very important signals for learning a language or to working on it. So your description should include some or all of the question outline from 1 to 13 that we study, depending on what features of language you consider to be most interesting from a syntactic or morphosyntactic and topological point of view. Give enough information on any feature to make it comprehensible to someone who has no prior knowledge of the language. For example, if we are studying, while our study of morphology, for example, we cited example from many languages. So the writer of the book had made it possible for us to understand those languages we did not know before, coming to that example. So in the similar way, when you study a language other than your mother tongue, you must make it comprehensible for your reader by explaining it in an appropriate manner. All parts of the discussion must be illustrated with appropriate sufficient data glossed and translated. So the data must be glossed, it must have a glossary and must be translated in a proper manner. Number each example following the convention used in this textbook, or any other textbook. If your language uses a writing system other than the Roman alphabet, cite data using whatever standard system of transliteration is used for this language. So the transliteration is very important in this regard. Give a list of abbreviation used in the gloss. You won't need to discuss syntactic properties that are not manifested in your language. So what is not found in your language, you do not discuss that part of other language that you are studying. For instance, not all languages mark morphologically the relationship between a head and its dependent. So if it is not found in your language, don't use it in the language that you study. Simply state that your language does not, for instance, display head or dependent marking. Similarly, you do not need to mention the antipassive construction unless your language has an ergative alignment. So what is not in your language should not be mentioned from the other language. You can collapse question, you can merge question. For example, the question that we are going to read, sometimes you feel that you can merge 2-3 questions together where this makes sense for your language. Make sure when answering each question that you provide adequate explanation. So explanation provision is very important. If you are not sure, do not mention that thing. Do not leave the reader to work out for themselves that what your data show. So you have mentioned that example, that some particular feature in your research, but you have not explained it. So it's better to avoid it. A lot of time we can easily skip such things and make our research or our explanation understandable to the reader, instead of bringing that constituent or element in our research which we ourselves are not very sure of.